Many people talk about how the white man uses Christianity uh, to he used it to enslave the Africans and oppress them, and he uses it today to brainwash Black America. They talk about how white Jesus is used to brainwash us. They talk about how the Bible is full of fairy tales and contradictions. And they say that Christianity is just a mechanism used by white America to brainwash Black Americans. But I'm going to talk to you about 7 ways whites have brainwashed and oppressed blacks without using religion. The irony behind this message is that there are things blacks believe and do every day under the rule of white America that have nothing to do with religion. In fact, the Bible teaches that a person teaches a person how to come out from under these modern forms of oppression. Yet blacks refuse to read the Bible. Black America has unconsciously associated white oppression with the Bible, which is why many still linger in perpetual mental slavery. The first one is television. One of the most destructive forms of brainwashing of the black mind is television and Hollywood movies. It is the one main way society has eliminated God. Media propaganda is full of suggestive and seductive imagery and negative subliminal messages that pollute the mind and alters reality in ways we cannot see on the surface. Most importantly, it is the white man's images and messages created from his own diabolical mind. Even black movies and shows are merely an offset of what the white man believes, only plotted using black faces. There is not one black movie or show that has not been touched by white misinformation or influence, not one. The lifestyles we lead are projected on screen, yet many of those lifestyles go against the teachings of the Bible. But as a society, we have all learned to accept life as it is and not as it should be or could be. People call the stories of the Bible imaginary, yet indulge in hours of television exposes us to imaginary scenarios every day, especially for those who binge on shows of drama, romance, comedy, even sports, conspiracy theories, and the like. And as a result, how many of us try to look like the white man and woman, act like the white man, dress like the white man, and talk like he does? Watching television is a form of idolatry because it takes away from the time a person should be focused on their relationship with the Creator. But because so many millions of people have had their brains altered by false imagery, which consistently sends subliminal messages of a non-existent God, we have lost our spiritual inspiration to the power of propaganda. Another one is family dysfunction. How many blacks belong to a dysfunctional family? Stepchildren, half-children, step-parents, second and third spouses. Again, society has accepted this as normal, and they move on and just deal with it. However, a couple and their children could better cope with life if they stuck to the one wife, one husband rule. The children have stronger character, and the husband and wife grow stronger together as the years go by, instead of dropping one another at the first sight of disruption. The Bible constantly and vigorously encourages men to love their wives and vice versa, and it teaches how to raise your children properly if given the basic principles of life. It teaches that a man should never whore around with other women and that women should focus on her home and family first and foremost. But how many black women today have chosen to have careers and jobs over their family, and black men chosen to pimp themselves out to the world? And these are things we learn on television. Once again, this influence comes from the white flawed intellect and misunderstanding of the Bible. He has neglected to follow the theories and principles. Thus, we as a subculture in this country have fallen by way of emulation of his corrupt ways. Instead of looking to what the white man is doing, blacks should really look at what the Bible teaches. They would definitely overcome the sorrows of family dysfunction. And unless any black man has mastered the art of multiple wives, they really have no choice but to believe in monogamy. Another area is finances. Black America is at its most weak in the area of economics. Not only because we have been slighted by white America from the time they brought Africans here as slaves, but today we still follow the corrupt and misguided ways of his financial theories. Though we cannot change the laws and structure of his system, we live by it to our demise, as he does to his own. Capitalism is destroying the economic and moral fabric of this country. Selfishness is widespread in this country and has poisoned the black community tremendously. The "I got mine, now you get yours" mentality has swept throughout the black family for generations, all based on the mindset of white folks. We are a jealous people, an overly competitive people to a cutthroat extent, and a vindictive people when we want to be. How many times have we looked down on our neighbors or family members with the mindset of payback? The concept of capitalism was not an African concept. They lived in a communal system that saw to the development and survival of all people, regardless of the village state. The resources in Africa were used for growth and survival and not for profit, but for building. The Bible does not teach capitalism. It teaches communalism. This is another flaw and failure in the white man's Christian theory, and a sin he has answered for over and over. Another one is debt. Debt is discouraged in the Bible because it talks against the practice of interest, usury. A business society should not charge to borrow money. This is against biblical law in many religions, including Christianity. Yet the white man's use of interest and the seduction of credit and debit once again reflect his misinterpretation of God's will for a society. Owing for goods, and especially the necessities of life, are not God's will. Nevertheless, how many blacks have purchased overly expensive cars on the promise to pay simply for the prestige of owning a nice car? Needing a car is different from having a car for show. The same goes for housing, which is a necessity. Medical assistance, higher education, and food. All these things are marketed to society at the expense of the poor for the benefit of the rich. Black folks sincerely believe that money is the answer for all things, just like they have been taught by their mental slave masters. Think about this. Fruit naturally grows on trees that God has provided, but the white man has found a way to exploit God's gift to humanity. Money does not solve your problems. Spiritual wisdom and understanding of life does. If a person has understanding of life, they would know that having too much money is more of a curse than a blessing, unless they use the money to bring about God's will. The love and idolatry of money has also poisoned the black mind and led people to do ungodly things, even against the people they are supposed to love. Yet how many blacks base their entire lives on getting paid? Another one is violence and hate. Blacks by nature are not a violent people, whether one wants to acknowledge their ancestral inspiration or not. The Africans solved their problems using intellect and peace, not violence, which is why all the tribes were not wiped out by one another before the white man stepped foot on the continent. It was he, the white man, that brought violence, murder, and killing to the world, not the African. Today, blacks resort to the use of guns as a means to threaten, intimidate, kill, and rob from one another. This would not be so had the black man not learned it from whites. Blacks would not have to arm themselves during slavery had it not been for the terrorism from whites. Blacks would not learn the art of war and mass murder had it not been for the white folks in the many wars they have waged. We enlist in the military and kill people we do not even know on the white man's behalf, all because we need a paycheck. The Bible teaches against war, murder, and all forms of violence. It teaches that peace among men is better than war, and that man should use inspiration from higher wisdom to solve his problems among other men. Peace and love gives strength beyond the barbaric acts of violence, and it grows to make a safe society. Nevertheless, how many brothers and sisters have resorted to carrying a gun in many cases, be it for self-defense, fear, pride, or as a result of having a murderous mindset? Another area is education. Black America have been brainwashed via the educational system continually, yet we push for college degrees, good white schools for our children, and we'll spend large portions of our paychecks for educational opportunities, only to learn the worldview of white America. Once educated from the institutions of higher learning, we land in the corporate workforce, subject to mistreatment and discrimination and a paycheck. The lack of unity and originality keep us from creating an educational blueprint for our own benefit, so we rely on whites to include our history in their schools. All the talk about what Black America needs and what we must do, but there is not one complete intellectual curriculum for black children based on how we think and learn. Much of what is out there are based on the logic of Euro, Greece, or Rome. The Bible teaches that the wisdom of this world is an enemy of God, and that knowledge is endless and always will be. It teaches that the wisdom of God is so much higher than the knowledge of the world, yet blacks reject God and his teachings because of the vindictiveness toward whites. Therefore, Black America will continue to roam this life lost and continually reading and writing theories of the world that lack the basic wisdom of God. Another is politics and class. One of the saddest and most powerful forms of brainwashing comes from politics. Black people will devote their lives to a political party and not give God a second thought. They will base their worldview, belief system, and ideology toward other people, their own people, all on what they have learned from institutions of higher learning, the United States Constitution, and judicial law. They will jail, accuse, berate, undermine, and sell out the black community because they have taken a vow or oath to uphold the American political party they represent. Usually, politicians from both sides of the political spectrum have already eliminated God from the equation of life and how to operate a society. Some will talk the talk, but their actions do not reflect what the Bible actually says. The Bible teaches that man's government is seriously flawed and not representative of God's will for humanity. It teaches that dividing up a people based on prestige, race, gender, or educational level is hypocrisy at its worst. It teaches that when man's law is in violation of his law, we should not abide by man's law, but trust the laws of human nature to excel, which will in the end. But we have not learned to trust God because society have been brainwashed to obey man's law. In conclusion, the destruction of the black community is directly related to their refusal to read and understand the Bible. If blacks have no moral blueprint from which to operate, but live each day subjected to the laws and theories of their own oppressor, how will we ever learn what true liberation is? How can a people wander for years rejecting the very principles that will actually free them from the oppressor they seek to escape? The Bible is God's law, not man's law, not the white man's law. It is the white man's laws, theories, and lifestyles that has blacks oppressed, not the Bible. There is not one principle in the Bible that teaches oppression. It only teaches liberation from oppression. So the theory of how the white man oppressed blacks using the Bible is flawed deeply and a result of the illogical thinking many blacks have acquired from years of neglecting God.